Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be seeing if all of the enchanted territories are able to be cleared without using any guns. Starting off, you've got the military checkpoint. The first bit you see, this one never really had any questions about. It is pretty easy, mostly small zombies with a few 240 HP ones in there. I will say, for all those people who are thinking about making a regular occurrence, doing it without guns, it is very difficult to deal with all the toxic spitters, because the only ones you're not going to face, the only areas you're not going to face them are the campsite and the parking lot, because they are raiders. And I found in this video that I could be able to visit two zombie locations, so you know, for example the checkpoint and the outpost, before I became like red level smelliness, which means I could no longer be able to sneak up on anyone, meaning I had to go back and shower. Yeah, as you could see, no real problems with the military checkpoint. It was quite easy to do without any guns, so that one's pretty good. Please be sure to let me know in the comments, I'm new to these sort of voiceover style videos, so could you give me some feedback? Are they working well? What areas could I improve on them with? Should I release more videos like this? And also just in general, how are you liking this new event? Because personally I think this is one of the best events since the prison in season 7. I think that was the best event since this, because next up is the campsite, and this was one of the harder ones to do, mainly because of it's difficult to actually get a sneak attack hit on the raiders. As you can see here, he notices me even I'm behind him, and also the sheer amount of raiders that are here means that you oftentimes won't be going up against them one by one, you'll be going up against them in swarms, and guns excel in those sort of environment where you would struggle, as I did, with swarms of raiders with just a melee weapon, but it was still possible. So the best piece of advice I can give for clearing this area is bringing a weapon that does more than 100 damage for a sneak attack. So I could even go away with using a katana there due to them having no armor, but picking them off one by one and attacking them is going to benefit you a lot, because there is one raider, I think it's different every time, that calls for help whenever he's attacked, and that is what causes it to be a swarm. Here it's just me being bad sneaking, but you will at one point be swarmed. So you also need a high DPS melee like the katana. You could have also used a machete. A pipe might have worked, but it would have been a bit dodgier. And secondly, you're going to need to be careful for the crowbar room, which is here. This causes a radio signal to go off whenever you enter it, which causes 3 raiders with armor to come and chase you directly on you. And again, you need a high DPS melee to kill them, otherwise you will struggle a lot. So moving on to the Fina outpost. This one is quite similar to the military checkpoint in terms of the zombies that you would face. A few spitters, a few fast biters, a few floater boaters, but nothing that is too difficult with any sort of melee weapon really. You don't have to use a machete, you could use a butcher knife or a crowbar or something like that, and you'll be absolutely fine. This is again not a difficult area to clear with melee weapons. Moving on to the parking lot, this is again quite an easy location. It is inhabited by raiders, but there is only, a few, 4 or 5 of them, and none of them have armor, so you can quite easily take them out like that with just a sneak attack. Sometimes you won't be able to, but in that case it is just a few shots with a melee weapon like a machete, and you're unlikely to get swarmed too bad by them. So again, this is quite an easy location to do with only melee weapons. Moving on to the ambulance station, this is the first one in the video I would say that is quite a challenge, because as you'll see later on, there are frenzied giants here. They are modified to how normal ones work, in the sense that the ones in here move slightly faster and slightly slower than a floater floater, but their damage is reduced. I think it is 41 in a tactical set or something like that, but it's still something that you can't really face as itself because they're 500 HP. So most of this here was me trying to find a suitable spot to wall trick them once the alarm was shut off, which is quite challenging because I feel like they work somewhat similarly to the savage giants in the farm, with their AI being reworked so that they are quote unquote smarter and harder to wall trick. But eventually I managed to find a spot, and when you single them out and wall trick them, it is not too bad to deal with them at all. Another tip for looting this ambulance station is using this sort of backdoor exit, which requires the crowbar, which you saw me do, instead of going through the main double doors in the ambulance station. And the reason for this is because there is still a swarm of zombies either way, but I feel like the alarm rings less. Like in the first time I cleared this area with guns, that is, the alarm rang 3 or 4 times and it only rang once when I used this exit, so that will save you a lot of resources and time. Yeah, but besides this one frenzied giant that comes in the first alarm ring, which is unavoidable by the way, it is just a bunch of toxic spitters and floater bloaters, which aren't too difficult to deal with whatsoever. So this ambulance station is not too difficult to clear without guns. Moving on to the signal tower, this is, I would say, the joint hardest one to do. Joint with the gas station, strictly due to the fact that there is multiple frenzied giants you have to deal with in this location. In the ambulance station there's only one, and it is quite easy to find an area to wall trick there, whereas here, it was 2 frenzied giants that come when the generator starts, and I found it more difficult to find an area to wall trick them because there's only this little room area which is just behind me there. But again, it is still possible if you single out the frenzied giants and you're not willing to, like, you're not scared to take damage from the other zombies, the floaters and the fast bios, and you know what you're doing as well. Like, any person who's proficient with the wall trick should not struggle with this, but it is a key part of clearing it without guns. Just a quick note that the airdrop does spawn fresh zombies at the ambulance station. You can see here it sort of surrounds them, and I believe it is one frenzy giant that spawns fresh with this airdrop. So, but you should have already cleared the ambulance station by the time you reach the comm tower, so it would just be another case of kill the zombies around it, using the toxic spitters, the floater boater, to reduce the sources of damage, and then once just the frenzied giant, just wall trick it using any wall that worked before, probably the one you did for the frenzied giant that originally is at the Walborough ambulance station, which is what I'm going to do here in a moment. But yeah, again, it's not too difficult to collect the airdrop without guns. And here I just wanted to quickly show you that you don't have to clear every area in order. Like here, for example, I just spawned in. As you can see, there's fresh zombies there, but you can just drive straight past the military outpost. This is really useful because, as I said earlier, there will be, like, you won't be able to go more than a couple of areas without having to shower again when you're just using melee weapons. So it is useful to do a couple, leave the area, shower, and then come back and not have to worry about doing the military checkpoint every time, because then you'll just have a build up of spare parts to give to the reputation, and you will have less of your medical supplies and your food because they come later on. So don't be afraid to skip certain areas and only go for the ones you need. Like here, I'm only driving to the gas station, which is the last one on the route, so I'm driving the full way and ignoring all the other areas on the route. But yeah, you don't have to do every area. It is sort of difficult with the obstacles, like the parking lot. As you can see here, this isn't great. I ended up crashing a lot, but you can just drive straight past it. Overall, don't lose your nerve. If you crash, just reverse and speed up again. Don't worry about fighting all the zombies you aggro on the way. But yeah, last but not least, the abandoned gas station. And this, as I said earlier, is joint hardest to do because there is a frenzied giant in the main area, which you can't sneak on him, and he has a very large aggro radius, I found, because I was purposely leaving him like far away from me, and I still managed to catch him. So I think he's got like a couple of like bars on the map radius in terms of, instead of just the normal one that most zombies have. And also the sheer amount of toxic spitters and bloaters here make it just a difficult location to get to clear. And you do need high DPS melee weapons like your katanas, like your saw blades, to clear it. And you also need to have a level of skill to not be immediately stunken by the amount of spitters here, because I think this is one of the areas with the most. So again, a difficult location, but not impossible to do without guns. So yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier. This frenzied giant came from literally out of nowhere. I don't think I went anywhere close to the main area, which is just up here. Yeah, that area is where he's supposed to spawn. So now I'm sort of looking for a good area to wall trick him, which it was quite difficult to find. But yeah, you do have to be careful that out of nowhere when you're looting, like what happened to me, you can just be run up on by a frenzied giant, and you do have to just deal with him as soon as possible, because you do not want to be taking that amount of damage over like an extended time period. So, and again, clear out all the zombies that get in your way, all the little ones that don't do as much damage, that aren't as big of a threat, and eventually you can just use the area where he spawns in to wall trick him, as you can see here. But I chose the outside, which is why I'm just luring him down here, so keep him on the outside so I can see him better, and then just wall trick him on there. And this does work fine, but you might have to leave whatever you're doing to come here instead of actually finding him where he is supposed to spawn, because as I said, he just comes out of nowhere sometimes, and you do have to have your wits about you to deal with him effectively. So overall, I wouldn't recommend using just melee weapons to clear the uncharted territories, purely because I feel like you would save a hell of a lot of time and faffing about by bringing a couple of Glocks for dealing with the frenzied giants, just so you can dispatch of them like that, instead of having to piss about with finding areas to wall trick them, because as I've said, they are buggy. The wall trick does not always work smoothly with them, so it is a pain in the arse having to deal with that. But certainly you don't need guns for the frenzy, no, for the floater boaters, the toxic spitters, the fast buyers, etc. The vast majority of zombies you can get away with melee weapons, and you only really need guns for the ambulance station, the comm tower, and the gas station, and maybe the campsite. So I feel like the conclusion should be: bring an emergency weapon, an emergency gun, try and do it as best as you can with melee weapons. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll be sure to try and make more videos like this, so stay tuned for those. Thank you.